heat of politics, and all eyes across the globe have been on Nigeria in the past few months, and the eyes are still on Nigeria even as we speak. Mm-hmm. This idea of inconclusive elections are cropping up in this year's elections in Bauchi, in Rivers, in Kano, in Adamawa, Benue, about 6-7 states of the Federation. Yeah. That is apart from those of the national assemblies that are still pending. And the latest from the Independent National Electoral Commission is that some of these results have been announced at the polling unit and at a particular stage before crisis started. And according to a committee set up by the electoral umpire, as long as that has been done, the results can still be regenerated and announced. And so we are in a situation that you don't really know exactly what will happen come next week, when we are expecting that the inconclusive elections will be concluded. So we welcome our guests, journalists. In those years, I still believe journalism will still be running in your veins.
It's always in the blood.
Mr. Adewumi, you're welcome on the set.
Thank you.
Let's look at the elections for the year, the 2019 general elections, and where we are as a Nigerian. To what extent will you say you are happy with this idea of the elections still hanging in the balance or in the air? Because that is the meaning of the inconclusive nature of the elections. How do you feel about it?
I think the whole thing has lapsed into what they call the theater of the absurd. It shouldn't take this long to conduct election, and then when the election is conducted and the results are tabulated or collated, then the results are announced, and then those who dispute it will have a chance to go to tribunal. But in this case, in these 7 states or more, we are having delays upon delays, INEC declaring elections inconclusive, and when it is declared inconclusive, they set another date, which is next weekend, the 23rd. But it shouldn't be like that. One of the things that we might talk about later is that we need to get to the era of electronic voting. That will eliminate all of these things. One other thing that happened here is that when the ballot papers are counted at the polling units, everybody who stays there and witnessed it knows how much or what the figures are. And then the INEC staff, they will do whatever they do, record it in their phone.
And even paste.
And paste it up, so everybody sees it. So why the dispute and why the inconclusiveness? The inconclusiveness might be, and I think it's because when you look at the number of votes that are counted, and the number of votes that are rejected, and as opposed to the number of votes at the polling units where balloting was not held at all. If the number of
rejected or cancelled votes,
if the number of cancelled votes is number of votes that were not cast, if it's greater than the number of cancelled votes, Electoral Act assumes that if those who did not have a chance to vote, if they had the chance to vote, they could have shifted the results one way or the other. And that is what will make the REC or the INEC to declare a poll inconclusive. But now it's becoming notorious, the way we have been watching things for the past 2 weeks or so. It's becoming notorious. It's hard to keep up. Because some will say it's inconclusive, and then those who challenge them, and then they go back and forth and back and forth. The world, like you said at the beginning, the world is watching us. Why can't we conduct simple election?
Senegal did.
Senegal did, and theirs is all resolved.
Even India, that has a larger population than Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay, I want us to look at the What do you think will have caused this inconclusiveness to start with? Initially, INEC told us boastfully that they were prepared. But unfortunately, what we have seen does not look as if INEC is prepared. But to some people, is the problem actually with INEC, the political class, or our security?
Well, more so, when you look at what happened in Kano and some other states, where ballot boxes were snatched by thugs, political thugs, allegedly destroyed and all sorts of things.
Yes.
So whose fault? Like,
that's where I'm going. Yoruba proverb or Yoruba they say "Onile lowo alejo buse odiseru." The INEC has its fault. The electorate has its fault. Who are those sending thugs to the polling unit? Okay. The security agents also have their fault. What I was asking when I saw the Kano thing and the River State on TV was that where were the security forces? Before the presidential election, we were told that there would be a barrage of soldiers and police and security agencies at the polling unit. How can somebody go through an armed personnel to go and snatch a ballot box? Where were they? So that's where I kept saying something is not right. Something is not working the way it should be working. So the security agencies, they have their faults. INEC has its fault also, because now why do you make the ballot boxes so easily accessible? When I watch in some states, they accredit and fingerprint here, and the ballot box is out there in the open. There is no kind of security around it. There is no way that you see anybody watching the ballot boxes other than the press cameras watching them. And anybody can run into the crowd or run into the place and grab the box anytime. The president said before we had the presidential election that anybody who snatched ballot box would do so at his or own peril, at the peril of his own life. We don't want any life to be lost. But if somebody snatches a ballot box and he gets away with it, where's the security? And I kept looking at my own experience elsewhere. There is no way that somebody will violate a law blatantly like that and get away with it. The police have their arms like this abroad. The arms are always like this. And if something goes on right before their eyes and they decide that it's something that they must respond to immediately, they will do something about it. We are not advocating shooting at random or shooting at anybody. But if you violate a federal law and you do it so blatantly in the eyes of the public, then the security agencies should do something. Before they pull the trigger abroad, they will pursue after that person and they will say, stop, stop. I didn't see any such activity or any movement here in Nigeria at the polls. So that's why this thing will keep on going on and on and on. They see it as, say, the president is just talking or INEC is just talking. If you snatch ballot box, you do so at your own peril, but nobody is paying attention to it because we make laws, but we are not enforcing the laws.
We are not enforcing. I just want us to look at the role of the security. About 35 or 37 billion naira was budgeted for security alone.
Exactly.
In view of what, because you said a while ago that you never saw a policeman pursuing anybody, showing any sign that yes, we are actually prepared. What can you then bring out of this? In view of this, was those money meant for allowances alone? Some people are thinking of closed circle monitor and what have you to so that these things will be there forever. Yeah. And even after election, we can still even use them for security purposes. Purposes rather. Well,
it's when they budget so much money for security, in my mind and in the mind of the average person, is that to prevent any incidents at the polling units. But now it looks like that money is only for paying them allowances or giving them a hamburger to eat in between. But the actual work that they're there for, I don't see them doing it. So what's the purpose of 37 billion if we don't see the visible results of it? We need to go back and do something. rewrite the law or maybe strengthen the laws that already exist so that these things will not continue to happen. International observers, when they gave their reports about the presidential election, they said everything went well, except in some few places, but generally it went well. Now, during the presidential election, there were those who disrupted the polls. And hardly did you see, the only people who lost their lives were those who were killed by other thugs, not because the law enforcement was trying to stop a crime. So what's the 37 billion for? We didn't see the result of it.
Okay, when the Federal Commissioner of INEC was addressing the nation on the committee that was set up by the Commission to investigate some of these inconclusive elections and to present appropriate recommendations for the next line of action. He did say that one of the committees accused the security operatives in certain states of complicity in the crisis, getting involved in some of these untoward developments, watching while the crimes were being perpetrated, doing practically nothing. And apart from that, before the press briefing by the Federal Commissioner of Information for INEC, you had reports of the top class of security in Nigeria saying that some people were in fake army uniforms, and you begin to wonder if they were fake army personnel or police personnel, and they were jetting one out there, and nobody was really apprehended in the real sense of it. What exactly are we seeing?
Well, democracy will destroy itself if we don't take action. Because we are trying we're trying to prevent anybody saying that overuse of security, we don't want anybody to criticize, or we don't want them to say this is a police state. So the result now is that the security agencies are not using the force or the power that they have. They are not using it because even they themselves are trying to prevent being criticized as being overly whatever. We have a problem. The problem has to go back to the trainings and then has to go back to the law that governs security agencies, that governs INEC, that governs all of these things. Everything, there's a law that governs it. We need to go back to them. When the president said anybody that snatches ballot box does so at his own peril, people criticize him, and then 2 days later somebody came and quoted from the Constitution. I forgot the section, but it's paragraph 2, subsection A, that somebody quoted that says it's in the Constitution that if you disrupt polling or you snatch ballot box, the Constitution specifically says you will be killed. It's there in the Nigerian Constitution. But everybody is afraid to enforce that law because we don't want them to criticize us, to say that we are dictator or we're this and that. And so the general public knows that, and they're getting away with, they're cashing in on it.
Okay, so some will tell you that it's a number of years of imprisonment or fine, as the case may be. Even at that, when you have fake army, police, or even civil defense personnel on the field, what stops the genuine ones from arresting them?
Well, how do we identify a genuine policeman and a fake one?
So how would they come out to tell us now that so those who are involved, the majority of people we see on the field were, in the real sense of it, quacks?
The uniform that the fake ones wear looks just like and identical with that of the genuine police. There was a time last year when the Inspector General said, this is how you will know fake and those who are not, those who are real. He said the names on the shirt are embroidered into the shirt. not into uniform, not a badge or anything. And so when I saw that, I said, oh, that's easy to know. But suddenly you are seeing fake policemen wearing the same thing with embroidered name. The moment you announce it, the same embroidery machine that does for the police, the genuine one, people will go and do it for themselves. Nigeria is a complex country to govern. Very, very complex. As soon as you make a law, somebody will counter that law. It's all over the world, by the way. It happens in the US also. When you make a law, somebody will counter it. So, but Nigeria has an extra dose of this thing they call the Nigerian factor. There is nothing you do that somebody does not counter. So we are in a dilemma, and we have to do something, but who will do it? If the president does it, they will call him a dictator. If somebody does, if the governor does it, they will say he is a dictator. So now, you want to please everybody, and that is the beginning of failure. You cannot please everybody. And we now have to go back. I was trained in the Nigerian army. I served 7 years, and I had good weapons training. In the Nigerian army before I went abroad, I had very good weapons training. Still with me now. I said farewell to arms when I took my discharge. But if you give me a weapon right now, I can still use it very well. Because in the US, regularly I went to the firing range to maintain my skill. Now, these policemen, are they trained enough? Do they have enough weapons training to know what to do in case of an incident that requires it? And then also to avoid them shooting indiscriminately. Do they have a training of what is called shoot, don't shoot? You have 2 seconds to decide whether a situation requires using firearms or not. Are they trained to think and to observe and to assess the situation and say this one requires firearm or this one doesn't? Are they trained in that way? I wish I had a training school to train them.
Yes, you said it while ago that if Mr. President decides to take a decisive action, some people might say he's a dictator.
Yeah.
And don't you think the problem with us is the institutions?
Yes.
Our institutions are so weak
that
ordinarily a soldier does not need the directive of Mr. President to do what he felt was right. Just as I said, there were 2 seconds to take a decision. He doesn't need the directive of Mr. President. What about our institutions? What can we do to actually strengthen them to be able to perform the functions for which they were put in place in the first instance?
In my humble opinion, the Constitution was written while we were still under the military. So some people criticize it and said it's a military constitution. And the military will write something to make themselves, or to favor themselves. Because now if you are shedding a military uniform and taking civilian clothes, then you have to do something to favor you while you are there. We need to rewrite, we need to revisit and review and rewrite many of these laws. They're there, and there are lots of things there, but then enforcing them is a situation that we have that makes it so weak. Our laws are there, but they are weak, or maybe not weak, but they are, what's that called, ineffective. Those who are supposed to enforce them don't have the power to do it. Like I said earlier on, they're afraid of being criticized. And anytime you have a job to do and you are afraid of what somebody will say against you, then you are inefficient. Then it makes you inefficient. It makes you incompetent. It makes you not proficient in what you are employed to do. So we have to make sure that we review this law. Okay, hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Hello?
Good evening.
Good evening.
You are on live, can we have you?
Okay, sir. My name is Alaji Nokuka Radimike.
Okay.
From Kibano.
Okay.
The main aim of the electoral body in any country is to ensure credibility in election. That is what the INEC is doing. The action should not in any way be seen as fraud. It is highly commendable. It shows that they are really patriotic and willing to sway by public sentiment. But That is because of inconclusive election. Because the electoral offenders have not been going to pay. They are not penalized. Publishing offender will come, electoral malpractice is about. And I would have been, we should remember that iniquity multiplies because it goes upon it. Well done.
Thank you. You listen to him well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's check out this call too. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening. Okay. You're welcome.
Good afternoon to everyone.
Yeah. Can we have you, please?
Yes, my name is Samuel.
Okay, Samuel.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I want to comment on the subject matter. I think the president is fully aware of this issue because the electoral act has been sent to him probably to the program review. And also the electoral act, there is this issue of security measures carrying weapons to the polling units and give them some distance. So if the president is to say that electoral offenders that will go carry boxes should be paid by their lives, I think he should really aware that such things should happen. But if the electoral act has been, approved or amended, we shouldn't be talking about standard box snatching. I think that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello? 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 We lost him.
Yeah, I think it's still.
Hello?
Please speak louder. You are on live.
Okay. Hello?
Hello?
Hello, good evening. Hello, you are on? Okay, it is one thing that came out from the last caller. Yes, this idea of the need to amend the electoral law.
Yes.
And he was saying if that had been done, maybe we wouldn't have been where we are now.
Yeah.
Maybe electronic voting or whatever name you want to give to it. We are talking about security, we are talking about fake security. Yet there are places where you don't even see these uniformed men on the streets on the days of election. And jokingly we were saying the other time about Senegal. I mean, it was around the same time that we were having our own presidential election too. Yeah. And within 48 hours, they had concluded.
They concluded,
so
yes.
we have to look at that. Hello? We need to look at that as a nation. How do you see that angle to this discussion?
Yeah, we have had 4 years to rewrite or amend our ways and perfect it. INEC said ready and better than 4 years ago. Now it's not being done. We need to rewrite the Electoral Act, review the whole thing, look at where the weaknesses are, look at any loopholes there, and fix them and rewrite them and make them ready before the next one. And electronic voting shouldn't take more than 12 months to implement. Because first of all, when you introduce them, we already have card readers. Card reader, when they put my PVC in it and they put my fingerprint on it, it identifies me as a proper and correct person to vote. Why not immediately after that go and fingerprint who I want to vote for? Electronic voting shouldn't take that much headache to do, but we need to rewrite the Electoral Act to include that. And now is the time that we can get into it and do it before the next election in 2023. But Nigeria drags everything so much. Once election is over now and everything is resolved, then everybody goes back to normal. And normal is mediocrity, doing nothing. So now we need to get busy and for the elected officials, the legislature and the executive to get into it. Nigerians, you and I will have to raise our voices and speak out and say we want something better than what we are getting. We deserve better than what we are getting right now. And so let's do something. Before the next one comes, we have 2 years. It took Professor Jegai about 2 years to prepare for the card readers. They went abroad. I was aware of that. They went abroad to observe over there, and they came back with knowledge gained from there. They looked look at best practices here and there. And they came back and they implemented a lot of those things. But now, since 4 years ago, nothing new was done. We have the card readers, but we have not done anything to say, okay, what about electronic voting? And now that presidential election is, at that time, a month ago, that's when everybody began to say electronic voting. That's why I said earlier on, once all of this is over, everybody goes back to normal and nobody is even thinking of it anymore until 2 years or a year before the next election. We need to do something in Nigeria.
We need to do something. It appears as if INEC chairman was aware of this. While he was presenting certificate of return to the elected senators and House representatives, he called for their cooperation and particularly said that the electoral law must be looked into.
Yes.
Which means that he himself is aware of various shortcomings but identifying the problem doesn't look as the issue in Nigeria. But solving them appears to be the real problem. And that was why perhaps when we were talking about security the other time, we talk about implementing, even where we have enabling laws, rules, we find difficult to see people that to implement.
Exactly.
Is it not a Nigerian problem? And if it is there no way we can get out of this problem? Must we continue this way?
Yeah, I won't say unique, but it's a Nigerian problem. How do we get out of it? We have to get politics out of all these things. Because now you have this political party, that political party, each one wants his interests to be supreme. And so before you even get to rewriting or reviewing the law, you already have conflict between the parties. And so we have to get politics out of it all. This is what is good for the country, and let us all do it. Let us galvanize and bring all the parties together and all the intellectual capacity and everything we have. Let's bring it all together and work this for the good of the country, not just looking at the benefit of one political party or the other, but this is what is good for the whole country. We need to get back and do that. If we don't, we will continue to spin wheels like a dog chasing his own tail. We will go round and round in circles and achieve nothing. So this is the time that we have seen these things happening, especially this election, when we have inconclusives and over and over and over. This is the time to now say we have to do something before the next one 4 years from now. And if we don't, we will become, continue to be laughing stock of the rest of the world. You said Senegal, where did they have the election? They did it within a week and concluded the whole thing and it's gone. Why can't we do it in Nigeria? One reason in Nigeria is the multi-ethnic, the multi-everything we have in Nigeria. This section wants its own interest, that section wants its own interest, and what is good for one area, the other area will say, no, we don't want it, and so you have conflict. That will continue to happen. That's why I said we have to take politics out of it all.
Hello?
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 My name is Inconclusive.
You're welcome, ma.
I think our so much. But what is it we have been listening to since the beginning of the election and after the election, see as many people receiving all these suggestions here and there. How can this suggestion reach the appropriate things for implementing?
How?
We
Okay.
just playing on the screen, watching living to speaking fluently, grammatically correct, politically active. It was a people. People. Get to do something about all these things. Thank you.
Thank you, ma. You listen to her.
Well,
All these grammars we are blowing, all these suggestions we are offering, all these recommendations are called.
Yeah.
How do they get to the appropriate quarter where they will be implemented?
That is the problem.
So that it will just end up in the air.
That is the problem we have. There's something in educational training that I did, that I used to conduct. There's something called transfer. What you learn at this conference, at this seminar, take it to your schools and implement them. But who is listening to us now? How many lawmakers are watching this program right now? How many governors or lawmakers or public elected officials, how many of them are watching? And if they are watching, how many are saying, taking note, when I get to the floor, I will do something, or I will sponsor this legislation. How many are doing it? Absolutely.
Even from the security angle, that we always write reports.
Is the IGP watching, or is the word getting to the IGP? If the local DPO or the local CP is watching this now and taking note and pass it to the IGP, is that going on? There is no transfer in Nigeria. When we talk about something and it sounds good, like Madam said, we are blowing grammar, and then nobody is taking it to the powers that be. We don't have, I don't have the power to make these things work. But beyond being on the air and talking about it, we need those who are watching, that is those who have power, to write it down, or write a memo, or write something to their superiors or to the president. I can write to the president about this thing, but will it get to him? On TV, they put social media, how do you reach the presidency? But is the president directly reading those things? Now, if somebody is reading it on behalf of the president, he's playing a gatekeeping role. This one, the president doesn't need to see this one, and that one doesn't need to see. So we are now handicapped, and it makes everything so weak. It makes everything so fluid, and again, we have problem in Nigeria. Madam is right. We are just blowing grammars. Who is listening?
You are just blowing grammar. And that is where we need to look at ourselves as a people. The president is in Nigeria. The chief of defense staff is in Nigeria. The chief of army staff is in Nigeria. The IGP is in Nigeria. The chairman of INEC is in Nigeria. The presiding officer at polling unit is in Nigeria. The politician is in Nigeria. Those snatching ballot boxes and the likes are Nigerians. There is this say that a set of people get the kind of leadership they deserve.
Yeah.
Aren't we like people in the jungle, that anything goes?
Yeah.
And if anything goes, is this what the democracy supposed to be in the real sense of it? Starting from the attitude of an average Nigerian. We just look at the leaders and we begin to condemn them.
Yeah.
Oh, the box up at their table, I agree with that. But at our own level as individuals, what exactly are we contributing? The other time we say we should come together as Nigerians. Where are we going to have that united front and united voice?
Yeah, exactly. Let me say personally, observing some of the people elected in this last legislative election, National Assembly election, the quality of some of the candidates who won, the quality, they're high quality, they're good quality.
Okay.
I believe they will.
Hello? Hello?
Hello, my name is Dr. Timidayo.
Okay.
I want to talk about the Nigerian security.
Okay.
Some people saying about 47 billion that the security agents have not worked. Hello?
Hello?
So, you people should ask, maybe this money reach those people. Because the person who is supposed to ask, they're supposed to give money. The money no reach the
Okay, whether the money gets to where it should be used or not.
Effectively.
Okay, that's another thing, another point coming up.
Yes.
This money we are talking about, 37 billion. Hello? 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 Go ahead, please.
I want to talk about.
Hello? Now, this idea of the money getting or not getting to where it is meant, how do you see it?
When I was dreaming, I said now, when I was dreaming of being elected into the National Assembly, I made a note to myself that I would love to serve, dreaming, that one of the committees that I would like to serve in would be the Police Reform Committee, or what do they call them? Because I heard from some police officers who said that the money that was allocated or allotted to them during the election, many of them never got a penny of it. They got food, they got slept in school, but the actual allowance given to them never got to them individually. I heard it from more than 2 police officers. They went to this state, that state, and they suffered for 15 days. They didn't get the money. So if I were in the National Assembly, one of the things that I wanted to do is to say, this money needs to get to the people, to encourage them.
Hello? Okay. I'm not sure.
So the money is not getting to the individual uniformed person for whom the money was allocated. One of them actually told me, and I don't remember how to get in touch with him anymore, but he actually told me that the money, before it even got down to their level, had already been divvied up at the upper level. That should not be. That should never be. I heard the same criticism in other agencies and other areas, that the money hardly gets to the people for whom you allocated them. The police, especially the uniformed men, America places emphasis on the welfare of its security men, people that you count on to protect you night and day. You don't play with their welfare. But in Nigeria, our leaders are doing that. We need to do something.
Yes, why is it that things are not working in Nigeria? Not just on the political scene. If you look at power, even agriculture, which one could say has been part of us from the beginning. Mm-hmm. And I remember that someone said, yes, Nigeria is practicing a democracy, but Nigeria's democracy is a democracy of a kind.
Yeah.
Is democracy in the real sense alien to us?
Without stepping on anybody's toes in Nigeria, we need to go back and look at our practices, democracy in action. We are not actually practicing real democracy the way it should be, both at the local, at the state, at the national, and other. We are not practicing real democracy. We practice democracy only in talk. But in actual doing it, we are not practicing it yet. We're in transition. We're still growing, we're evolving, but we are not there yet.
Hello, good afternoon.
After 20 years.
Good afternoon, sir.
You're welcome. Can we have you?
My name is Ayoride from Osho.
Okay.
If I want to talk about the issue of inconclusive election, I think, the idea you forget about this, because whenever there is inconclusive election, indirectly or directly, malpractice will occur there. So I think I love the idea of that inconclusive election.
Well, if that's what the electoral says, who is INEC or who are we to advise against this?
Yes, they are following the Electoral Act.
Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
You're welcome.
Hello?
You're welcome. Can we have you? Okay. Okay. We were to allow him.
Yeah, you should.
Even when he was speaking in Yoruba.
Yeah, we understand what he's trying to say.
Hello?
Hello?
Unfortunately, he went off. So,
Yeah.
Ahmad?
If you can call back.
Hello, Ahmad?
Hello?
Hello, can you speak a bit louder? Lost? Okay. The Nigerianness in us that Gordon was talking about, will we begin to think of homegrown democracy? At the point, IBB, what about that idea? Homegrown democracy.
When we talk about homegrown, then that means we are going back to the Obas and the chiefs and the emirs and how they did it in those days. When we talk about homegrown. But when we talk about homegrown...
Looking at our peculiar nature, attributes.
No matter what, democracy...
Yes. Hello, good afternoon, you are welcome.
Yeah, I thank God for giving us this precious material. And I want to contribute to the program you are doing.
Okay.
I just want to chip in something about democracy in Nigeria, not especially in River State. It's so much implement some of these acts and it works with our democracy. I would just suggest that we should have something in our electoral guidelines because of the political intervention in some of the matters, especially in election time. There is no correlation between election and the army. Election should be between the police and the civilians. So I think it's high time we change our guidelines in the electoral hand, and I wish my Baba General to give us some answer.
Thank you. You listen to him?
Yeah,
I was talking about changing the guideline. I wouldn't know whether the guideline allows, the current guideline, whether it allows the military supervising the election or not.
Every like this stool now rests on legs. Everything rests on a foundation. And we have the foundation, the definition of democracy. You were talking about homegrown democracy. But democracy by definition is government of the people, by the people, for the people. Anything that deviates from that is not democracy. The government of the people, by the people, for the people. That is real democracy. Anything other than that is not democracy. If we are not practicing that in Nigeria, we are not practicing democracy. If we are not doing that, we are doing the wrong thing. It's government of the people. The people decide by the people. And it's wrong to say the people have been deciding. By even starting with our constitution. Was the constitution a product of the decision of the people? It wasn't. It was handed to us. It was given to us by the leadership at that time in 1999.
So if the foundation were to be 40,
we have to go back to the foundation and redo it. Look at the houses falling in Lagos and Ibadan. Something was wrong with the foundation. So our democracy, we don't want the house of democracy to fall in Nigeria. So we have to go back to the foundation and reinforce it or do something to make sure it doesn't fall. Sooner or later, the people themselves, which we saw in this election, especially in the state of Osun, the people decided this is what we want. And we have to go back to the whole thing and nationally to let the people say, we want a constitution that favors us, not favors a few, not favors some, not favors a class or section of the country. We want a constitution that favors all of us. If we are one country, which we are, and we coexist, then the constitution must favor all of us. Democracy is of the people.
Who takes the lead in this? Who takes the lead in this matter? Well, we've had a number of constitutional conferences or confabs from 1999 up to date, about 2. None of the reports or the results are seen the light of the day. We've had series of
national conferences,
efforts to amend the constitution, like Biodun said, billions upon billions of naira sunk into it at the House of Rep level, the Senate level, the state houses of assembly level, and yet nothing concrete had come out of it, except few that will benefit those in power. So how precisely do we get this thing done?
Who were the members of those constituent assemblies that were convened in the past? How were they chosen? Did you get a note in the mail to say, Mr. Owulabi, we would like for you to serve on the Constituent Assembly? No, it was people handpicked and chosen by the leadership of the different parties. I want my so-and-so to be on it. Or I want this to be on it. And so it's not the choice of the people. And when you don't have the voice of the people on it, those who claim to represent the people are representing their own interests and the interest of those who selected them there. So we are not there yet. We need to go and convene something by the people. And how to do it, by the way, is to locally, like was attempted 4 or 5 years ago, locally get the people together, listen to them, take note of what they are saying, and collate everything.
That has been done.
Has been done, yes, but who are the ones speaking? I went to one of them. By the way, the legislators were there, our legislator at that time was there, and the people were talking and talking. Not many people from the floor were allowed or were able to say anything. What we did at the one that I attended here in Osogbo was listening to what the legislator had to say and tell us what they want us to hear, not what I had my own note. I had a notepad in my hand that if I raise my hand and they allow me, these are the things I will say. But it never happened. And even when some people raised their hand, the person selected them was looking, and I believe they chose those whom they recognized. I was not a recognized face at that meeting.
Is that not part of Nigeria's democracy?
It's not democracy. It's not democracy at all.
Of Nigeria's way of doing things.
The Nigerian factor.
Yes, in an attempt to make the various elections we held credible, or even that we have been having, right from period of Jenga and what have you.
Yes.
People in the academics have been brought in to serve as returning officer or what have you. And in the course of one of them presenting the report of a particular city I don't want to mention now, you ask yourself, and this man has a PhD. To the extent that he's a professor, you ask these questions. To the extent that there was a time that the arrest of one was ordered. So what do you think then? If people in academics cannot even do, because at that level it is believed that independence, the vibrancy, educational background, what have you, they are there.
Well,
with the support of ASU too, that even in case of towards happiness. In spite of that, don't you still think that this democracy has a lot of problems in Nigeria?
How were the academics chosen to be on the electoral board? How were they chosen? Was it on merit or was it on seniority? This brilliant young man who's a professor can do very well, but then there are 2 or 3 levels above of him. Will he be allowed to be on the electoral thing? May his soul rest in peace, our dear brother Paris Adesami. If he were in Nigeria, that's a very brilliant mind. Now, if they were to be looking for somebody from a university and he was there, and he is under 2 or 3 hierarchies, will he be chosen above those? No, that's what's wrong in Nigeria. We don't choose on merit, but we choose based on seniority or based on favors.
But even then, the first one could be a professor. I mean, he must have measured up to a
standard, yes.
Expectedly.
Yes, like some must have had citations, must have had publications, and all of these things before you consider him a professor.
In one of the states, one of the returning officer was quoted to have said, I even listened to her on YouTube, that I'm declaring these results because I'm under pressure to do so. I'm being forced to do so. Okay, it's a particular state having to do with senatorial election. And at the end of it all, you see INEC leaving out the name of the controversial personality out of the ones that have been given the certificate of return. All this, when you now see politicians, candidates of political office seekers becoming notoriously making it a do or die affair.
That is our problem. That is our problem. Some states are notorious for disrupting elections, and it happens every 4 years, or happens when they're having any election in those areas. I won't mention them, but we know them, where the elections are being conducted again. They're notorious for that. So now, if this woman said she was forced to give this report, which means there was somebody holding something to her head. And I read this morning that one REC, a woman, has been reassigned because of threats to her life in one of the states. It should not be like that at all. And again, we must look at those who are competent, look at those who are honest, who will be factual, who will not play to how much money you offer me or how much money you promise I will get after the election, but who have the interest of Nigeria at heart, who love Nigeria like I love Nigeria. I love Nigeria, I love my country. I could have been sitting eating ice cream somewhere else right now. But I'm in Nigeria because I love my country. We need people who are committed to the welfare of Nigeria to be involved in those things so that when the result comes out, regardless of whose ox is gored, that this is it, and this is the fact, and this is what happened, and this is the result of it. We need such people who are fearless, who are courageous, who have the courage to make country better. Nigeria must not fail, and Nigeria must not fall.
Nigeria must not fail, Nigeria must not fall. People talk about public interest.
Yeah.
Whose interest is public interest?
Whose interest? Yeah. Public interest, exactly.
Everybody's interest. even those that are believed to be courageous.
Yes.
It is also believed that when they get there, the system will corrupt them.
The system will corrupt them. Well, may the Lord help us.
Thank God that we were just dreaming.
That's what I said. I was dreaming. May the Lord help us.
We want to say thanks to our guests on this program.
Wow, thank you very much.
Yeah, dreamt about being in the National Assembly, hoping that we'll be able to turn things around.
Yeah.
But so far the dream is still at the realm.
It's still alive. It's still alive.
It's still alive. We hope that so many other passionate Nigerians like you who loves Nigeria in the real sense of it, and saying it, proclaiming it, telling us, because you are telling us that you love Nigeria. We hope that we'll be able to put that love into action for the betterment of Nigeria as a nation and the good of our citizenry. From my brother, appreciating and
well, we want to thank you once again for having of the short notice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being part
very, very short notice.
Thank you. Thanks. It's always a joy to be here. We appreciate it.
To our viewers, we'll be meeting again next week on Let's Discuss. Until then, from Abiodun Olalere.
Bye-bye. We'll see some other time.
And Akin Olawolabi, I say thanks for being there always. Bye for now.
Ire ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni.